about to leave, already packing. Come with me, I'm not really asking. We'll get away to a place where we don't know. About to see the world in action, what we can be, life with no distractions. We'll get away, this is what we waited for. Take my hand, we'll make it somehow. We can't miss out. I'm done living life with the lights out. Die with my own doubts. Be free with me. Let's go, let's be free with Not looking back, eyes on the freeway, Bonnie and Clyde, a classic cliche. We're on the run, this is what we waited for. Take my hand, we'll make it somehow. We can't miss out. I'm done living life with the lights out. Die with my own doubts. Be free. Let's go, let's
Good evening, everybody. John here from Tutor to You, welcoming you back to another exam skills live stream for applied psychology. And tonight we're going to be concentrating on aggression in a cognitive and social context. Like I say, big welcome back to those of you who've joined us before. If you've been watching, welcome back. Happy New Year, of course, as well. Our first live session of January. If you're watching this live, just having a little look at my clock here to see how many of you are joining us live. Of course, we'd love to hear your thoughts and your suggestions to the answers to the activities that we've got for you tonight. If you're watching this on replay, then please do take your time, pause the video where you see fit to have a go at answering the questions. I'm joined tonight, as I have been done all of these sessions, by Reese on the right hand side of the screen and Simon in the middle of the screen. Good evening, both.
Evening, John.
Evening.
Good evening to you. Right, Reese, do you want to tell us a little bit about what we're going to cover tonight?
Yep, so tonight's session is going to be slightly different to the previous sessions, in that we're going to look at more of the scenario-based questions and trying to apply our knowledge. Okay, so less retrieval of knowledge, but more applying it in today's sessions, looking at the cognitive and social concepts into aggression.
Okay, wonderful stuff. Right, well, let's get started then, gents. Let me hand you over. Here we go.
Okay, so the first one, which is going to be our first application session, is going to give me a real-world example of the six concepts or six examples related to social and cognitive approaches of aggression. So can you give me a real-life example? Let's see the spinner and see which one is asking you to give you a real-life, or if we press, it should start now. Perfect. So give me a real world example of the first one, which is relational aggression. So you should be able to know what relational aggression is. Can you write in the chat bar what is an example of relational aggression? Okay, so I'll give you half a minute. Can you write down a real world example of relational aggression? Okay, so you should give me one of these key terms. Okay, can you give me a real world example of relational aggression? Okay, so don't forget, use that chat bar. Let's get some answers for this as well. And John, if you can press enter to give me the answers for some real world example. Okay, so a real life example, okay, of relational aggression is spreading rumors, okay, and withdrawing friendships. So actually breaking down relationships. Okay, so that could be friendship groups, that could be trying to minimize contact with someone else. So you're purposely trying to break down some relationships or friendships. Okay, if we go on to the next example, then please, John. Okay, can anyone give me the real life example of, okay, conformity that leads to aggression? So can you give me a real life example where conformity can lead to aggression? So don't forget, use that comment bar. We'll give you a few seconds. Can you give me an example where conformity can lead to aggressive behavior? Okay, so don't forget, use that chat bar. We've got some answers coming through, but can we come up with any more answers where conformity can lead to aggression? Okay, John, if you can press enter for me. Okay, so some examples, okay, are pitch invaders. So while it's not aggressive, an actual aggressive manner, but it's disruptive and it's a thing which is then used as a group. It could be riots or gang violence. If you see in films, when one person starts, other people join in, and that could be gang violence in prison. So that will prison violence will come up later on in the presentation as it's part of institutionalized aggression. Go on to the next example then. Okay, which example? What do I like? Which one would I want a real world example? Okay, so it's verbal and non-physical aggression. So it's one of the new terms we need to know. But can you give me a real life example of verbal or non-physical aggression? It could easily be a question in the exam. It could be a scenario. Can you give me a real life example, okay, of verbal or non-physical aggression? Okay, if we press enter for me, let's see some answers. Okay, we've got cyberbullying. Obviously, that is going to be a non-physical part of aggression, but there is still can be related to relational aggression as well. Trying to break down, trying to make people or belittle people as well. So you've got taunting and name calling as well, which is verbal but non-physical aggression. So still, aggression is a behavior that can feel which does not help someone and can be with menace. Okay, so that is cyberbullying, taunting, and name calling. Okay, the next example. Okay, see what the spinner tells us. Okay, can anyone give me a stereotype of aggression? Okay, so there are some stereotypes of aggression. Can you give me a real life example? So don't forget, use that chat bar, okay, and give me some examples where there are stereotypes of aggression. Okay, John, if we press enter, let's see some examples, some answers. Okay, so some stereotypes that males are more aggressive than females. Okay, another stereotype is that Scottish people are more aggressive than other British nationalities. Okay, so there's that belief that certain people are more aggressive than others. There are many more examples. Hopefully, that those watching can think about other examples, other stereotypes where a certain group of people are more aggressive than others. Okay, I think that was the last one for the connection spinner, and it's over to Simon.
Okay, so we've got 4 multiple choice questions for you. These are going to be 4 key terms. Remember, it's all about your key terms, using them correctly in your essays, and you could get a short answer question, but being able to apply them as well. So we got some application for you. So question 1, when a person wrongly interprets other people's behavior as aggressive, for example, an accidental jostle in a crowded pub. So what cognitive bias is being described? So remember, cognitive is to do with the way that you think. So if somebody wrongly interprets other people's behavior, and usually it's quite neutral behavior. So somebody might just be doing something normal. So being jostled in a pub, not particularly unusual. Okay, so a neutral behavior. It's a non-aggressive behavior that somebody might interpret as being aggressive. So is that confirmation bias, hostile attribution bias, fundamental attribution error, or authority bias? Okay, so in the comments, A, B, C, or D. Confirmation, hostile attribution, fundamental attribution, or authority bias. Okay, couple of answers. Okay, John, do you want to show us the right answer? And it is hostile attribution bias. So you attribute somebody's behavior as being hostile. Okay, question 2. Again, linked to key terms. When people are exposed to violence, it activates violent thoughts, which lead to aggressive thoughts as they have been associated with the situation. It's usually something that's learned as well. If you are in an aggressive situation for a prolonged time, your schemas will then become more aggressive, and your aggressive thoughts are more readily available. Okay, so is this cognitive priming, hostile attribution bias, cognitive scripts, or or cognitive biases? Okay, so cognitive priming, hostile attribution bias, cognitive scripts, or cognitive biases. Quite a difficult one, I think, this one, because some of those are quite similar. Okay, cognitive priming, hostile attribution bias, cognitive scripts, and the answer is C, cognitive scripts. Now, the problem with that is it is quite similar to the other to something like cognitive priming, where you actually feel more likely to be aggressive, but that's usually because of an object in the room has reminded you of a previous time, rather than the actual script, which is the memory that is present. So the script is the memory. Okay, let's have a look at number 3. Okay, when someone has had a violent upbringing or lived in an aggressive neighborhood, they are less anxious to retaliate with violence as this is deemed normal for them. So the aggressive behavior is kind of normalized. They have less of an anxiety, so they have less of a kind of fight or flight reaction to it. So they're not shocked by it. Okay, so are we talking about cognitive priming, role modeling, disinhibition, or desensitization? Okay, so they kind of it becomes more normal for them. They're not shocked by it is the main thing, because they've experienced it. Whereas somebody who maybe is has an upbringing in a non-violent kind of household or neighborhood would get shocked, and they would be kind of less likely to be violent because they still feel shocked by it. Cognitive priming, role modeling, disinhibition, desensitization. Hopefully you can eliminate a couple of those. Okay, John, can you show us the answer? Okay, so this is desensitization. Literally, they are less sensitive to the situation, so they're not shocked by it anymore. Okay, so desensitization. Last one, number 4. When a person has been exposed to violence through the media, film, or video games, it legitimizes the use of violence. So kind of similar to number 3, so you have to be kind of quite careful, but legitimizes the use of violence. They are not getting sanctioned for their behavior. So we have an idea of what we should and shouldn't do. So if you don't get sanctioned, you feel more like that's something that you can do, you're allowed to do. So we're talking about cognitive priming, role modeling, disinhibition, or desensitization. A lot of these key terms, if you think about the meaning behind them, then it does go some way to explaining what they actually mean. Most of these key terms, there's a reason why they're used. So we cognitive priming, role modeling, disinhibition, or desensitization. John, do you want to show us the answer? Okay, so it is disinhibition. So we are less inhibited because our inhibitions kind of tell us what we should and shouldn't do. Obviously, we can lose our inhibitions through alcohol and through being in a crowd, but also if we've been subjected to a lot of kind of experiences of violence as well. Okay, so that was question 4. We're going to go back to Reese.
Okay, so this one is a new activity. Okay, we're looking at stepping stones. So this is looking at a chain of analysis to develop an evaluation point. So actually, when it comes to the exam, we need to be able to apply an evaluation point. So in this task, I'm giving you the first and last point. So if you can try and fill in the blanks or the stepping stones. Okay, so research support shows aggression is linked to a culture of honor. Okay, and then the very last point is these findings support the view that conformity to cultural norms can partly determine aggressive behavior in a society. So actually, this task would be able to help you with a whole evaluation point when it comes to aggression. Okay, so can anyone fill in the gaps? So I'll give you a few minutes or a couple of minutes. Can you fill in the gaps? So research support shows aggression. Okay, that is linked to the culture of honor. Okay, and then these findings support the view that conformity to cultural norms can partly determine aggressive behavior in a society. So you've got the PEEL. So in some classes, you use PEEL, which is the point, and then the link at the end. We want to look at the evidence and the explanations. If you can, try and write answers in the comment bars. Okay, what is the evidence and what is the explanation to that point? Okay, can anyone write down in the comment bar that evaluation point? So you've got some answers already, so if you can try and get some of those answers down here. What's the next point? The next point, okay, so this one of the research study or research support that have looked at how participants from southern and northern states of America have reacted to aggression. Okay, so this is the application part. What was the study? Studies have shown that there are looking at differences between southern and northern states. It's shown that those from southern states were more likely to think that masculinity was threatened than northern states. Okay, so that's the third point. If you go on to the last point there as well, then John. Okay, what is as the analysis part, the whole PEEL. Okay, research support shows aggression is linked to the culture of honor. Looked at southern and northern states of America and the reaction to aggression, showing that southern states where there was a higher culture of honor, okay, they're more likely to think that their masculinity is threatened, and also showing high levels of testosterone. Okay, so that could be linked to culture of honor can then promote testosterone, and therefore were more aggressive later in the study. Okay, these findings support that conformity to cultural norms, so believing that because you're from a certain area, you must react in a certain way, can determine aggressive behavior in a society. So that's quite a tricky one, but it is an application of an evaluation point looking at the social approach and aggression. Okay, I think we've got one more example of a stepping stones. Can we try and fill out the blanks? Okay, so this is a new part of the specification. Research supports that the impact of situational factors influence violence in prisons. Okay, and the link to that is this indicates that violence in prison is due to situational factors rather than dispositional factors. So can you fill in the blanks using the comment bar? Okay, what's the evidence and can you come up with an explanation? So the first point, research supports the impact of situational factors. So what are situational factors? Okay, can influence violence in prisons. And then the link is this indicates that violence in prison is due to situational factors rather than dispositional factors such as where they come from and their background. So give a couple of minutes. Can anyone come up with a explanation or evidence? Okay, John, if we can get the next point. Okay, so there is the evidence, or evidence. There's been many studies which have looked at prison violence because it happens quite a bit. We've seen riots in prisons. There's lots of studies that show that violence is used due to the reaction of deprivation. Okay, so the reason of the loss of liberties. Okay, where certain things are taken away can increase the amount of violence. We go on to the next link then, the next stepping stone. Okay, so like I said, the lack of meaningful activity, lack of privacy, the overcrowding, these are all situational factors which have increased the number of assaults against prisoners or and then prisoners and staff. Okay, and one study which supported that is in point 4. If you go on that for me, John. Okay, so there's been another study which has shown that when these conditions were addressed, where there was more meaningful activity, when there was more privacy and less overcrowding, all assaults within the prison were eradicated. So this shows you that violence or aggression in societal approach can be influenced by situational factors rather than dispositional factors, which is where people have come from and their background. So it's more about the current rather than the past, and that is where how you fill in the application or analysis valuation points to aggression. And now with Simon with the bubble quiz.
Okay, so just a little multiple choice quiz for you here. So we've got those of you who have joined us before, I've seen the bubble quiz before. It's multiple choice, but there's not necessarily just the one right answer. Okay, so there could be 0 right answers on there, or all 4 could be. Okay, so without further ado, let's have a look at the first question. Okay, so number 1, which of the following are examples of aggression influenced by others? Okay, so don't forget, there's not always the one right answer. Okay, so have a look, identify the correct answers. Okay, so have a look. Testosterone levels, role modeling, desensitization, disinhibition. Which of those? Think about the question. You should be in your exam always thinking about picking out a word or two which tells you what you should be thinking about, which area of the specification you should be thinking about. Okay, so you might look, for example, at the word influenced and think about what areas of the specification that was giving you pointers towards. Okay, or you might be looking at the word others. Okay, testosterone, role modeling, desensitization, disinhibition. Okay, I'll give you a clue. There's more than one correct answer for this. Okay, so it's B, C, and D are all correct because role modeling, desensitization, disinhibition are all influenced by other people. Okay, let's have a look at question 2. Which of the following might be a weakness of viewing aggression as a social concept? Okay, so we do view aggression as a social concept. Okay, which of those are a weakness of doing so? Okay, so there is evidence of conformity to cultural norms. There is contradictory evidence on gender stereotypes. There is support for the role of stereotypes, or it doesn't take into account the role of biological sex. Okay, so you might want to think about the previous question. The answer A there. So answer A wasn't social, but what was it? That might give you a little clue. Okay, give you a couple of seconds just because I know those answers are a little bit longer. And there is more than one correct answer again. Okay, John, do you want to show us the answers? Okay, so I would have thought that D was the first one I personally would have thought of. That it actually, if you just look at aggression as a social concept, doesn't take into account biology at all. For example, testosterone, which is obviously much higher in members of the male biological sex. So that was my clue for that one. And the other answer is B. There is contradictory evidence on gender stereotypes. So there are gender stereotypes, but how true are they? Possibly can be true, but is it because of upbringing? We don't know. There's still a lot of research to be done. Let's have a look at question 3. Okay, so question 3. Which of the following are the main reasons for institutional aggression? Okay, so Reese was talking before about being in prisons. Okay, being in an institution, that's the prison is what we usually look at. Okay, so which of the following are the main reasons for institutional aggression? So why do we find that there's aggression in the institutions we're talking about? So is it A, situational factors, B, dispositional factors? Is it fundamental attribution error, or is it hostile attribution bias? So if you're listening to what Reese was saying before, hopefully this one will be quite straightforward. Situational factors, dispositional factors, fundamental attribution error, or hostile attribution bias. Okay, John, do you want to show us those answers? Okay, so situational factors and dispositional factors are the main reasons for institutional aggression. So like Reese was saying, situation, is it the actual place that causes the aggression? Dispositional factors, is it the actual personalities of the inmates that cause the violence in the prisons? Okay, we're popping back to Reese now for the next part of this slide.
Okay, so again, we were looking at more the evaluation points. So this is called the balancing act. Okay, so try and make sure we got one advantage, one disadvantage. So can you give an advantage, or maybe more than one advantage, one disadvantage? Trying to see how we view aggression as a cognitive concept. So try and think about the cognitive concept, so our perceptions, our thought processes. Is there an advantage or disadvantage of viewing aggression through cognitive concepts? So when you think about cognitive approach, you should be thinking about the biases and priming and other things like that and schemas. So can you give an advantage or disadvantage of viewing aggression as a cognitive concept? So don't forget, write in the comment chat bar, okay, can you come up with an advantage of viewing viewing aggression as a cognitive concept, and a disadvantage as well. So give you a couple of minutes. Can you write in the chat bar an advantage and disadvantage? I can see some answers coming through. Okay, some of the advantages and disadvantages will be relevant in later units as well. I think one of these advantages you actually talk about a lot more in Unit 3, but not necessarily due to aggression, but more with stress as well. Okay, so John, can we look at some of the answers for me, please? Okay, so the first advantage, okay, there's research support on the impact of the cognitive scripts, schemas, and aggression. So we've seen that actually the cognitive scripts, the experiences can lead to aggression. That could be due to your upbringing. Okay. Also, one disadvantage, like all research or like most research, it shows a correlation factor, but it doesn't actually mean it's a cause and effect. So just with most research, it just shows a correlation, a link, and a relationship rather than a cause. Okay, if we go on to the next, some more answers there, please, John, as well. So this is the use of cognitive therapies to treat aggression. So actually, you can use cognitive behavioral therapies or CBT, okay, to treat aggression by making sure your thought processes are changed, okay, to inhibit or prevent you from looking or reacting to a stimulus. So using CBT can stop you reacting aggressively. It's what's included in anger management strategies. Okay, and there's one more. Can we balance it out? Is there one more question? Unfortunately, you can't. There's more advantages than disadvantages when you viewing aggression as a cognitive concept. Okay, there's a significant association between hostile attributions, okay, and aggressive behavior. So when you hear in the news about how the media, so gaming, films, okay, can cause aggressive behavior, there has been research which has shown that when you are in an aggressive environment, you're going to react more aggressively. So there's a big correlation between that. Okay, if we go on to the next slide, I think it's Simon to do with the Eval-u-wheel.
Okay, so all you can do is you can see a line of argument that a student has made as part of an answer to an essay question. Then it will spin the wheel and it will suggest how you might continue that evaluation point. Okay, so our student argument. There is research support of the role of racial and ethnic stereotypes. In American reality TV shows, black contestants, especially women, were depicted as more aggressive than other ethnic groups. So a lot of the time it was edited in that particular way. Okay, so let's spin our wheel. Criticism. Okay, so what we're after is a criticism of this point. Okay, so again, in the chat bar, can you suggest a criticism of this point? Okay, so the point itself is a strength. There's research support, but often we can expand our points to get more marks in the essay questions. Okay, so we're just going to give you a minute. Maybe slightly less than a minute because we're running out of time. Okay, John, should we have a look at a possible continuation of this point then? Okay, so a weakness is that it does not consider the role of biological sex, specifically the role of testosterone, which suggests that it's more than just the social approach which accounts for aggression. Okay, so there we've got a way that we could kind of continue with the point. As a criticism of that point, we can expand it. Okay. We've got time for one more. I think it's probably the end now, isn't it? Okay.
Thanks a lot for that, Simon. Yeah, fascinating stuff again, and lots of application going on in all of those examples. And I think that was a key theme of tonight's activities, gentlemen. Am I correct there that we're trying to take those concepts that we've talked about a lot or have been studied a lot and apply some real world examples. So that's a fair point to make about tonight's session.
Yeah, I think so.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Obviously, yeah, there's going to be scenarios that in the exam that are going to need to be used, and so we're going to try and work on that a bit more.
And in terms of gaining these real world examples, what's a sort of like a good place to start, or what should students be doing to have that little bank of real world examples, do you think?
Go on, Reece.
I think when it comes to aggression, look at when you look at aggression, I think we will need to be looking at where there is aggression highlighted. So look at the riots, look at maybe the independence vote of Spain. Why was there violence? So maybe look at the anonymity of people, look at the groups of people. Why are people being aggressive? And looking at real life application where there has been major violence or aggression, and then see why that's happened. So looking at real life reasons or real life scenarios, and then find out, is this because of a group of males, is it testosterone, or is it because they've all done it as a group, therefore conforming? So looking at real life examples and trying to think to yourself, why have they done that?
Thanks, Reece. And I'm really conscious of the fact that we've got a little bit of a delay between our different streams here. Brilliant stuff, gentlemen. Thank you as always. Big thanks to Reece and Simon for putting that together and delivering those activities. Thanks to those of you who've taken part in terms of the live chat as well that we've had tonight. Wonderful stuff. We're on again next Monday, 6:30. So from Reece, Simon, and myself, a good evening and see you next week. Bye bye now.
Bye.